Crews in Marion County battled back-to-back house fires on Christmas Day. TV 20's Lali Salachi tells us how witnesses are reacting to the aftermath.
I mean, my heart breaks for them because this house is not livable.
Marion County Fire Rescue crews battled two back-to-back house fires on Christmas Day. The first fire was reported at 9:47 a.m. at a home off of Southeast 30th Court. Just 4 minutes later, multiple crews arrived on scene and reported the mobile home was 50% involved. Some residents believe they may know the cause of the fire.
The original owner had some issues with people who were homeless or, have nowhere else to go, and they probably went inside looking for warmth, maybe started a fire, and it got out of control.
Firefighters immediately went into search and rescue mode. Crews determined there was no one inside the home. No injuries were reported.
I am grateful that, whoever was inside or however it happened, that it did not cause any more damage.
As they were clearing that fire, a second structure fire was reported behind me at this home. Residents say they saw heavy smoke coming from the garage.
That was the first thing. It was like, oh my God. And then when we found that it was our good friend's home that was on fire, it's just, your heart breaks for them.
This structure fire was in Bellevue. Firefighters deployed hose lines. They say there were no findings during the search and no injuries were reported.
The fire department had already cut a hole in the roof, and it was just pouring, heavy black smoke just pouring out of there.
2 individuals were displaced and the American Red Cross is assisting them. No surrounding structures were affected by the fires. Officials are working to investigate the cause of both fires. Lali Salachi, TV 20 News.